The last trial for Europe's deadliest conflict since World War II came to a close today. UN judges upheld the life sentence for former Bosnian Serb military leader Ratko Mladic for masterminding genocide and other atrocities during the Yugoslav wars.
Ratko Mladic received his final verdict on Tuesday. Appeal judges upheld the conviction for war crimes during the Yugoslav wars. Mladic was the commander of Bosnian Serb forces during the 1992-95 war that was part of Yugoslavia's breakup. Survivors of the 43-month siege of Sarajevo are hoping for closure.
Many years have passed. No one can give my child back to me. But I would have some peace for the sake of other children, so that this genocide does not happen again, and that no parent feels what we experienced.
His son Eldon was killed in the street at the age of 9 by a Serb grenade. During the siege of Sarajevo, Bosnian Serb forces cut off the city's electricity and water and killed about 11,000 people with artillery, mortar, tank and sniper fire from the surrounding hills.
So in many places, 2, 3, 5, 6 or even 7 children were killed in a group, mostly while playing, and mostly with intent, planned with intent. Therefore, it was part of the aggressor's strategy to try to achieve his crazy idea of creating a greater Serbia in that way as well.
He lost his daughter when she was 11 years old to sniper fire. In July 1995, Mladic led the seizure of Srebrenica, where his troops executed 8,000 Muslim men and boys over several days. Their bodies were dumped in mass graves and later reburied to hide the crime. It was the worst massacre on European soil since World War II. In 2017, the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia jailed Mladic for life on charges including terrorizing Sarajevo's civilian population during the siege and the genocide at Srebrenica in 1995.
Someone has to pay for all these children killed here. And this is only part of the children and part of the people who died in this area. Someone has to pay for it.
Mladic and his legacy still divide Bosnia. Many Serbs regard Mladic as a hero, while Bosniaks, mostly Muslims, view him as a villain and war criminal.
Google says it will change its global ad practices after France hit it with a huge fine over its online ad dominance. It's the first time Google has bowed to antitrust pressure. NTD's Patrick Hayden has more on this landmark case.
French regulators have fined Google nearly $270 million. The Wall Street Journal reports the fine is for anti-competitive behavior in the digital advertising space. France's antitrust watchdog says Google abused its market power.
It is a world first for the antitrust world.
News Corp and 2 other media groups logged a complaint in 2019, which triggered the investigation. The regulator said Monday that as well as the fine, Google has committed to operational changes. This includes making it easier for competitors to use its online ad services. France's antitrust chief said it's the first decision in the world focusing on the complex algorithmic auction processes.
So this is the first decision in the world that really deals with how online advertising works for the display part of online advertising, which are all the different publicity that we see on websites and also on apps that you can use on your smartphone.
The case marks the first time ever that Google has entered into an antitrust settlement. Google did not comment on the case itself, but directed NTD to the changes it's making to its ads platform. Its legal director in France says these platform changes are being tested for broader use, including some on a global scale. Patrick Hayden, NTD News.
France plans to send a smaller-scale replica of the Statue of Liberty to New York in a gesture of friendship between the European nation and the United States.
New York's Statue of Liberty is about to get some company. A replica will depart from Paris Musée des Arts et Métiers this week and will arrive aboard a boat at Ellis Island on the 4th of July. From there, the reproduction will be transported to the French Embassy in Washington, D.C. as part of a 10-year loan. It's expected to arrive at the capital around July 14th, France's National Day. Museum director Marie-Laure Estignard said the new statue aims to rekindle the long-term friendship between France and the US.
You have two sculptures that both symbolise French-American friendship and the liberty of the people. And you see, between 1776 and 1789, there's a 13-year difference, so we really have a common history on the liberty of the people, the desire, the need for liberty, which is very common among the American and French people.
Measuring just under 10 feet, the statue stands around 30 times smaller than the existing piece on Liberty Island. It is one of 11 replicas made from the original cast used as a model by French sculptor Auguste Bartholdi. France sent the first Statue of Liberty to the US in 1886. Towering more than 300 feet, it weighs in at about 250 tons.
Today, I think the Statue of Liberty, an influence in the United States that is clearly evident, but all over the world you just have to look at all the copies, be it real or not, and all the representations of the Statue of Liberty. There are hundreds and hundreds.
Prominent French figures including engineer Gustave Eiffel, the man behind the Eiffel Tower, and architect Eugène Boillé-le-Duc, who worked on Paris's Notre Dame Cathedral, were also involved in the statue's construction.
A rare manuscript containing Isaac Newton's handwritten notes is up for auction in London. It's on his seminal work, the Principia, and is expected to sell for £750,000.
Legend has it that a falling apple inspired Isaac Newton to formulate his groundbreaking theory of gravity. Whether or not the true story has been embellished, there's no doubt that the British mathematician revolutionised the world of science. Now, a little piece of his work is going up for auction at Christie's in London. This manuscript contains his handwritten notes on his most important publication, the Principia. The first edition was published in 1687 and sets out theories for how the universe works, including the laws of motion, universal gravitation and planetary motion.
This is an autograph manuscript, that's a manuscript in the hand of Isaac Newton, talking about his greatest work, the Principia. This is the work in which he reinvented our understanding of the universe. He's working here on a second edition of the Principia, revising, improving, expanding what he'd said in the first edition.
This unpublished paper consists of Newton's revisions and corrections and was an expected second edition of the work. The manuscript shows a return to form after a difficult period in his life.
He had a complex personality, and the year before this, in 1693, we know that he had a complete nervous breakdown. He suffered from bouts of paranoia, he couldn't sleep. In 1694, when he was embarking on this, he was once again fizzing with the energy of one of the greatest minds the world has ever seen.
Newton achieved great fame in his lifetime. He was knighted by Queen Anne, served as Master of the Royal Mint and was appointed President of the Royal Society.
I think Newton's Principia changes the way people look at the universe, and there's nothing quite like it until Einstein's work into the 20th century.
Despite attempts to refine the Principia, it wasn't until 1713 that a second edition was released. Christie's says documents like this rarely come to market. It will be auctioned as a part of Christie's Classic Week on July 8th.
If you are watching on Sky TV 190 or Freeview 271, we have some news for you. From the 13th of June, we will roll out an updated broadcasting schedule. Stay tuned to our website ntd.com for details. That's the news for today, and thanks for tuning in. I'm Stuart Lees.